So, hello, our dear teachers. Today we are having our second e-tag session at Umraniya Directorate Giza. This session will be about reflecting on a vocabulary lesson. Last time we spoke about how to use Zoom in making a kind of session to your students and how to benefit from the merits of this application in teaching over distance by using internet. Today we will go on another topic. It's very important as you see. It's about reflecting on a vocabulary. Let's start. At the end of this session, you will have number one, reflected on a vocabulary lesson you have taught before. So you will make a kind of reflection on a lesson you have taught to your students before. Reflected on the techniques you prefer to use to teach vocabulary. Each one of you has his own techniques and methods in teaching. So, which technique do you prefer in teaching vocabulary? Watch the video that presents some important techniques to use while teaching vocabulary. We will present a video as we have already learned before and used. In this video, we will make a kind of pre-questions in which we will ask you some questions related to this video. After that, you will watch a video. During watching the video, we will take some notes about some hints. We will ask you about it after watching the video. Finally, made an action plan of how to integrate these new techniques into our teaching practice. How to use all these techniques together to make a kind of perfect lesson. Now let's start. First, could you match these definitions with the words related to it? I'll give you 4 minutes to read the definitions and to match them in a paper outside of the session, and then we'll explain the meaning of each word together. First word is contextualization. Contextualization. Second is register. Register. Third, target language. Target language. And the last one in this slide is collocation. Now you will take your time to make a kind of matching between these definitions and the words related to them. And I will take your answers through the microphone or by using the chat box to write down the order of these words. We'll have 4 minutes. Now let's start. Who could give me the answer to the first definition? These are the individual items of language that students need to learn or the teacher wants them to learn. Which definition is related to this? Yes, Miss Irene, could you answer it? Right, let's see the answer. Yes, it's target language. So the target language is the individual items of language that students need to learn or the teacher wants them to learn. Number two, these are words which are often used alongside the new words. If you want to answer, you could raise your hand and give us the answer or unmute your microphone. So let's see. Collocation. Number three, to put language items into a meaningful and real context. Yes, it's a contextualization to make it in a context. The last one, it's whether a word is informal or formal. And when you should or shouldn't use it, it's a register. So I've got four new terminology. We'll have another 3-1. Let's start. What's meant by concept checking questions, pre-teach vocabulary, and drilling? We have got it's listening to or another student and repeating what is heard. Which one? Number two, these are a set of questions designed to ensure comprehension to the target language. Number three, to teach new words. Hello, Mr. Abmenan. To teach new words first before teaching the main topic. Right? Let's see the first one. Drilling. So drilling, it's listening to a model provided by the teacher or a tab or another student and repeating what is heard. Concept checking question. These are a set of questions designed to ensure comprehension of the target language. When you are teaching vocab, you should know that the meaning you deliver to your students are delivered correctly. So you need to ask them some questions as we'll see in the next video to check if they are understanding what you are saying, what are the meaning of these words you want to deliver to them. The last one is pre-teach vocabulary. To teach new words first before teaching the main topic. So to introduce some new words before you give the main topic. For example, when you are speaking about sports, you could give them some related words to sports. Right, let's move on to another slide. Here is how to get your professional development. First, professional practice. Practice what you are writing down on your lesson plan in a perfect way and change your techniques and methods and try to learn. After you have finished your teaching, try to reflect. So reflection is very important to get the main points of strength and weakness on your performance. This is a kind of professional development. Now it's time for our video. Here is pre-watching questions. I want you to think about these four questions and to prepare some answers for them. Number one, according to which criteria do you choose the vocabulary that you need to explain to your students? When I'm teaching for a primary stage level, is it the same thing as I teach for a secondary stage? What are the criteria which I put in consideration when I am introducing a vocabulary lesson? right? If you want to write down in the chat box, I'll wait to see the answers to this. If you want to say something, raise your hand and use your microphone, and I am waiting to listen to your answers.
Excuse me, Mister.
Yes, Mr. Abmanan?
I didn't hear the question again. Please, can you see the question again?
Right, okay. Don't you see the slideshow on your computer or lab?
I use my mobile.
Right. So you didn't see the slideshow which we show on the screen?
Unfortunately, I have just joined your session.
Right. So the question is, Mr. Abmenan, according to which criteria, what are the criteria do you use to choose the vocabulary that you need to explain to your students? When I am giving my students a new lesson about, for example, sports, school tools, and so on, what are the criteria which I put in consideration when I'm giving them this vocabulary? Are they the age, the level, the standard of understanding, the individual differences, or something else?
I think it's better to give us an example for this criteria, Mister.
Right. For example, Mr. Abmanan, individual differences are very important when I am putting some new vocab. For example, when I am giving a primary 4 lesson, it's not the same number of words which I will give to the secondary 2, for example. The number of words are different from this stage to this
Yes.
stage, according to the level of students, the age, and the individual differences. Do you got it? So let's move to the second one. Do you hear me, Mr. Abmana?
Yes. Select some new vocab from I think 3 to 9 or 4 to 8.
Right,
Yeah,
from 4
not
to
more
8. That's
than
perfect.
8 words.
Right.
Yeah. Yes. This is
According to the
according to
age,
the
for example, of the students. Right, Mr. Abmanim. Let's move to the next point. The next question is, do you teach such new words in the same order as they show up in the lesson? Or do you teach all of them at once? For example, when we are giving a lesson plan, there is a certain arrangement of the words or new words that we are stuck to. Do you make this arrangements to your students, or you give them whatever words you want in whatever arrangement you want?
frankly, Mr. Abdurrahman, we use some words, as I said, from 10 to 8, but word by word. Yeah, I write down the words and give the students the definition.
Right, Mr. Abmanan. I can't hear you. Sorry.
All of us as teachers, when we
Yes.
explain lessons,
Yes.
we usually explain new vocab one by one,
Right.
new words one by one.
Right. In the same order in which you planned your lesson plan. Right.
Yes,
Yes. Thanks,
but
Mr.
we,
Abmanan.
but I think, Mister, we have to write, we have to say the words in order.
Right. Right. I agree with you. Question number 3. If your answer
Yes.
to the last question was the later option, which is I teach all of them at once, right? If your answer is this, at which stage of the lesson do you usually do that? Is it before teaching in the stage of preparing your students for the lesson, or during teaching, or after you have already taught your new vocab. Number four, explain the technique or techniques that you prefer to use to present or teach new vocab to your students or your learners. We know that we have different techniques to use in teaching new vocab. Now we'll see a video. And before we see a video, we'll discuss some questions related to this video before watching it. It's about a technique in teaching new vocab. Let's see it together and let's first discuss the questions. This is a video, you could see it from here, but we'll move to. So I have lost the this is pre-watching question, I've already discussed it, and now it's the turn of the video. I'll give you some minutes to listen to the video carefully and take some notes out in your notebook outside this session.
When it comes to teaching vocabulary in your English classroom, you'll find that you have lots of different opportunities and lots of different methods for doing so. One of the most common opportunities for teaching vocabulary is pre-teaching before giving a text or listening. So it's very common for you to choose a handful of words from that text that'll help them understand the text, that'll be new words for them, and pre-teach them before exposing the learners to that text. There's a lot of different ways to teach that vocabulary, and I'm someone who believes in teaching vocabulary and grammar inductively. And what that means is focusing on the meaning before focusing on the form. So let's look at the general best practices for teaching vocabulary inductively. When attempting to pre-teach vocabulary inductively, there are 6 basic steps that you'll need to follow. The first step is to choose the words. So you'll be looking at the text you're going to use as input in your presentation stage. You'll choose a handful of lexical items, words or groupings of words that you want to focus on, that you want to pre-teach, and these would be things that would either be new for the learners need to practice, and hopefully that will help them with their comprehension of the text. The second step is to take an individual word or lexical item and try to elicit it. So you can use miming, images, realia, or maybe try to discuss the meaning. Notice. I noticed. To notice something, you need to see something, or you can hear it, you can smell it. You did not do that before, and now you do. You notice. One more word. pants. These are my pants, and this is a pocket. The third step will be once they've guessed the word, or you had to tell them the word, to repeat that word many times and to have the students repeat them. Do that chorally, whole class repetition, and then individually call them to repeat the word, saying it nice and loud, repeating it many times. So this is an example of a monument. Right? Repeat after me. Monument. Good, good. Monument. Monument. In attempting to pre-teach vocabulary inductively, there are 6 basic steps. So you're going to use miming, monument. All right. So I have another word. Oh. What did I just do? I saw it, but I saw it. I didn't see it, and then I saw it. It starts with an N. Notice. I noticed. To notice something, or you can hear it, smell it. You did not do that before, now you do. You notice. One more word. What is this? Does anyone know? Starts with a P. My pants. These are my pants, and this is a pocket. The third step will be once they've guessed the word, or you had to tell them the word, to repeat that word many times and to have the students repeat them. Do that chorally, whole class repetition, and then individually call on them to repeat the word. You're saying it nice and loud, repeating it many times. So this is an example of a monument. Right? Repeat after me. Monument. Good. Good. Monument. 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 Good. Good. Notice it. Okay, repeat after me. Notice. 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 Pocket. Good. Pocket. 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 The fourth step, you should prepare in your mind or written some concept check questions. And these are questions that contain the target word. They're simple questions, usually yes or no. They can be open, but they're designed to get the learners to hear the word in context many times and to process the meaning over and over again. Do you know other monuments in the United States? Yeah. Mount Rushmore. Good. Mount Rushmore is a monument. All right. Are there monuments in your hometown? Do you notice anything different about me today? Did anyone notice? Yeah. I shaved. I had more hair on my face yesterday. Thank you for noticing that. Do you notice anything different about the room today? Amy, did you notice? Yeah, we moved some of the chairs. You noticed that. I noticed that Ahmed is sitting in a different place. He normally sits back in the back. Now he's over here. I noticed that when I came over. Does anyone have a shirt with a pocket? Yeah. Okay. You have a pocket. You have a pocket. Step 5 would be after that, you said the word, you've elicited it, you've repeated it many times, you've done the concept check questions, go ahead and write it on the board clearly. And sometimes I like to use different colors for different parts. That's a speech. A because it's countable, 1 monument, 2 monuments. Yeah, good. All right, so that's a verb. So I'm going to write it in red. To notice, and I'm going to put something because you usually notice something. We'll put it right here. Step 6, repeat these steps for all of the words on your list. We'll do these one at a time. We'll go through the list. So that is one method of teaching vocabulary inductively. I encourage you to use that to pre-teach vocabulary for your presentation stage input. You'll find when you use it in the classroom, it's very dynamic, very engaging for the learners. You'll also find that it's very easy to work in all 5 of Freeman's facets of understanding: the phonological, the morphological, the syntactic, the semantic, and the pragmatic. So I encourage you to experiment with this method when pre-teaching vocabulary in your language classroom.
Now, after we have already watched this video, let's answer this question. What aspect of vocabulary does the presenter advise to focus on first when teaching new vocabulary? The meaning or the form? Did he concentrated on or focused on teaching the meaning or the structure or the form of the words? To give the students what's meant by this word, or to give it the and so on. Right, you can write down or answer the question if you want. Write down in the chat box or answer the question. Yes, it's meaning. Right, well done. So it's meaning. The vocab here in this lesson are concentrated mainly on the meaning of the word. Number 2, put these steps in order according to the video. We have got 5 steps. The teacher in the video spoke about 6 steps because he spoke about repeating these steps when teaching vocab. They are not arranged here. I want you to arrange them. Ask concept checking questions, to ask the students some questions related to what they had already understood from your explaining of these words. B, repeat words, to repeat some words. Elicit words, to choose some certain words and to give explanation of these words to deliver the meaning to the students. D, write the word on the board. E, choose 8 words to pre-teach. Here is from 4 to 8 words is the correct or the perfect number of words. Right. In a piece of paper outside, you could rearrange these steps. I'll give you 2 minutes, but take the third question first. Number 3, which of those techniques in the video have you tried to use while teaching new vocabulary? Here is the man use some techniques like using realia. Realia means to use some real objects in giving the meaning of a word. For example, when I'm saying the word football, I can hold a football, a real football, to show it to my class. It's very simple and easy, and they will deliver the meaning directly. This is means using realia. This is real. You could use miming, to use gestures, and use some facial expressions to deliver the meaning of some words. This is miming. And you could show them pictures through flashcards or some printed pictures. Those are techniques which the man used in the video. Now I'm waiting for the order of the question number 2. To summarize the 3 questions, up to now we've spoken about the presenter focused on meaning of the words. This is question number 1. Number 3, the teacher used some techniques like miming, using realia, flashcards, and explaining using other techniques if you want. Now, have you finished arranging this order in teaching new vocab? Let's see. Miss Imam, Miss Irini, have you finished? Yes. Let's see the right arrangement. I've got 6 steps. Number 1, select from 4 to 8 words or phrases to deliver to your students, to give explanation or to make them the new vocab in which you will give to your students. It's the perfect number, for example. Number 2, elicit words, explain them, and use whatever technique you want to explain them. Number 3, repeat words. Say the word and ask the student to repeat them individually or all the class altogether. Number 4, ask concept check questions. These questions means that you want to know some information related to these words. For example, when I am giving them a word like football, I can ask them about other football. If the connection stop, you could rejoin the meeting again. Right? Are you following me?
Yes.
Yes. So let's continue what we have started. This is the fourth step. Ask the students, for example, do the size of the ball vary from sport to another? For example, in playing ping pong, we play with very small football, and then it got bigger in another sport like tennis. And after that, volleyball, it got bigger. In football, it's bigger than. And I think in basketball, the ball is the largest size. This is some related questions to check their understanding of the new vocab. Finally, write down the orders on the board. I think we inverse this order. We first write down the order and ask the student to repeat them and so on. After finishing that, you could repeat the 5 steps again to give the students the full understanding. Those are the post-watching questions. To what extent can you integrate to mix the techniques mentioned in the video into your future teaching practice? So I can use pause using miming and flashcards and giving new vocab, for example. This is a kind of integration or kind of mixing between the two techniques or methods to deliver the message. Can such techniques be used in an online teaching environment like while teaching? For example, can I ask you to make a kind of demo about teaching a new lesson or new vocab using the video instructions you had already watched it to? Follow these 5 steps online. That means you will explain the lesson using your whiteboard and your materials, but it's online in a live session like this. Can you do it? Let's think about it and try it. First, you can record some videos about this and then you can do it online. It's very good and beneficial for you. I think this is the end of our session today. I was happy to be with you, and this is the last step. It's called the sandwich feedback. So tell me 3 things you liked about today's lesson. This is the first. Second one, how could you have improved that or solved that problem? Third one, so let's sum up what we can build on from this session or lesson. So in between the two phrases, first slide and the last slide, you could put your problems or some irritated situations and so on. Try to use it. Thanks, and till we meet again in our next session on Sunday, 7th of June at 10 a.m. Mr. Abdurrahman. It was my pleasure to be with you. Thanks and goodbye.